got this. We can do this. Okay, take 6. I want to talk about a new series of paintings that I'm working on. I want to talk about a series of paintings that I made last year that I see as being a prototype for this new series. In order for me to talk about those things the best way possible, I want to lay out a brief foundation from which these paintings are coming from. My name is Zachary McCrae. I have been making paintings since 2014, so about 11 years. When I started painting, I was aspiring to surrealism. I made weird scenes with weird characters with a psychedelic kind of bent. I was inspired by Alex Gray and Salvador Dali, whose work I had seen as a child, and also largely I was inspired by my own psychedelic drug experiences that I was having at that time. Within a couple years of making paintings, the figurative aspect of my paintings had all but disappeared. And I attribute that to, how can I put this? It's a whole can of worms. I was distracted by the way that the materials interact with the surfaces that they're being applied to. So I would make a brush stroke, and then something in that brush stroke would cause me to react to it, respond to it, and then actually contribute something meaningfully to the composition. So some of my favorite paintings that I made in those early years were at least partially resulted from intuitive, in the moment painting automatically. There's an automatic process there. Within a couple years of making those aspirational surrealist paintings, the figurative element in my work disappeared, and I was off to the races. I was completely drawn in by this following behind the brush approach to painting intuitively, automatic painting. What I will suggest is that in getting roped into this intuitive process, it set me on I would describe as it's like I'm floating in a tide, or I'm in a rapid stream. It's more so just occurring, and the paintings, as the years go by, the paint, my output is just coming out, and it's all in this same vein because I'm doing the same sort of process to produce the paintings. I had my first, and at this point only, solo art show at an art gallery in 2024. For that show, which was occurring at the 10-year anniversary of my picking up a paintbrush, I was sitting on a storage unit full of paintings, and I didn't know if I'd have the opportunity to have another solo show. So I wanted this show to be a representation of all the things that I had done up to that point, and also, with a focus on who I was at that particular moment in my art. So for that, I grabbed a handful of some of my favorite paintings from the past 6 years or so, and then also a handful of paintings that were more recent, like within the past 2 years, and focusing on ones that I had made that year. And I had the idea also, and I approached the gallery owner, the curator, with this idea that I wanted to have a small wall of only drawings, because my drawings had been, I have more drawings than paintings, and they're all similar compositionally and stylistically to my paintings. And it's also important to note that I've always felt a bit stronger with a pencil than with a paintbrush. I've been drawing much longer than I've been painting. I think that's a common thing for most people. Drawing was my first foray into art making. So anyway, what ended up happening was I decided to go back through some of my sketchbooks because I was looking for drawings to put in the show anyway.
Okay, so these are some of the drawings I was looking at. This one, I wrote words on this one. I used this one and I used this one. I wrote some words on there, but it's mainly just like kind of stream of conscious type stuff, not meaningful. This is one that I used, and this is where it gets interesting. So, all of these were from 2021. At the time of the show, it was 2024, so this was 3 years later. I should really make this into a painting and do a whole series of these. I didn't do that in 2021, but I wrote that. Here's another one that I used. What if I only paint portraits for the entirety of 2022? Let's do it. I mean, it's basically what I've been doing, just with a hole in the bottom that everything is emerging from. So yeah, I went back, I pulled these drawings, and I remembered this thought that I was having at the time. Like, this would...
I wanted to change. I guess I felt, partially because it was like around this 10-year mark, I thought this is a good time to change. Like, okay, I have this 10 years of abstract paintings, but what can I do in the next 10 years that's a little bit different? And so, yeah, I started with those faces, which are still almost purely abstract. You can't even really call them faces rightfully. It's really more just like a suggestion of a head by virtue of like the abstract form coming out of a neckline, and then maybe like suggestions of like facial features like a chin or a nose. I put them into a projector. I projected them onto oil painting paper. And I decided that in order to replicate the style of the drawing, I needed to limit my palette so that it more closely resembled, like pencil on paper. So it's just more like working with the dark brown and then a light yellow color. Yeah, and I would just say, like, it worked out. Somehow it worked out, even though the actual process of producing those paintings was much different than the process of creating my abstract paintings. Because to create those abstract paintings, I'm having to riff off of every brushstroke. It's occurring, the composition is coming as I'm painting it. These, I have a picture that I've traced on a piece of paper that I now need to like fill in with paint. After I finished that series, which, I got a lot of compliments on it from people at the gallery. Out of all the pieces I showed in that show, a couple of those were the only ones that sold. And I also just personally felt like this was my work, but it stood out from the other work that I've been making in a way that I just felt very happy with. When you look at the purely abstract stuff that I was making, and then you look at the Sallow Face series, and then you look at the new series that I don't have a name for at the moment, you see how there's like this pure abstraction is growing like a figurative limb. It's like funneling that energy, and that automatic process is bleeding into figurative paintings. So it's like spinning into this new kind of iteration of ideas that are figurative. And I guess like it feels like a cyclical thing, because it goes back, feels like in some ways it's going back to like the beginning when I was starting and I was wanting to make these weird figurative paintings. And that's why I'm just really excited about it and want to show it.
Okay, so here's the thing. I would say at this point my main goal is to make this YouTube video. Make it make sense, and then get it to where I can publish it to my YouTube channel before the end of January. because that was my goal at the beginning of January, was that I was going to make this YouTube video in January, and then I would subsequently make another video every month. So I'm stating that now, that that's my goal. I want to make a YouTube video like sort of like this one. So an art vlogging video every month, for, you know, however long, for the foreseeable future. The subject, the content of that video initially, when I started making this, was to show this new series of portraits that I'm working on. That's still sort of the goal. However, that project has evolved since I started making this video, and of course since I started working on the head portraits. I believe that when I last filmed, I was talking about, or I sort of left off at the point where it would logically make sense for me to begin talking about a collaborative art show that I had with a friend of mine in Salem at a gallery there. We had an art show together. We worked on it for about 6 months together. During that time, I made a series of sculpture heads, polymer clay heads, which I affixed to a wooden monolith that was about, I don't know, 3-4 feet high, that I constructed out of spare wood that I had lying around. Making those heads was really fun. I was able to make each one of them relatively quickly, you know, in a span of 2 to 3 hours, to sculpt the heads and then bake them, and then after that, you know, another few hours to paint them. Yeah, so I did that, and I knew that after doing that I would want to make more sculptural heads. It occurred to me that, I came up with an idea where I was like, rather than just making these paintings of heads and calling them a series like I did with the Sallow Face series, it would be cool to do something different with the presentation of those paintings. So I came up with this idea. I kind of drafted an idea for essentially a box frame, a wooden box frame, and I'll show it.
These are each so this is 9x12 piece of wood here, piece of plywood, that is glued down onto this other piece of wood. The trim is glued down and also nailed in around each of these two, and then there is a bit slightly bigger than 9x12 hole here, which this part I had to actually like cut out using this thing called a Dremel, which is the first time I used one of those, and the bit actually broke when I was doing it, so I had to kind of like saw and then use the Dremel sander. This is where I'm going to glue each of the paintings on here, and then the sculptures are going to go in there. At present, I just have the face, and then I put these on last night. I'm going to put another one here, and then here, and then I have to build walls here so that this will look like a shelf as seen from the front. The current state of the box frame. So I have like multiple ideas for the boxes. I'm thinking like of making several different wooden boxes to display these paintings and sculptures. So that's the driving force of making the box frame, is so that I can display and put these pieces together in conversation with each other. That's basically the idea. It's just a way to showcase and put in conversation these sculptural heads with the painted heads. It was a very simple idea. In terms of where I'm at, I have 8 portrait paintings completed, 5 of which I really like. So I'm kind of looking at it like that, like having this box frame is causing me to be like, I'm just building a crop of paintings, so the more the merrier. The more paintings I have, the more options I have to kind of see who goes best with who. So at this point, where I'm really at is building that up, building up the number of those things more.
so that I can then do this curating of like which 2 paintings and single sculpture am I going to put together in this first thing. So yeah, I'm still painting. At present, I only have 3 sculptures. 2 of them are finished, 1 of them is almost finished.
Here's my guys so far. This guy hasn't been cured yet, so he hasn't been baked. He's not completely finished. There's some like, I want to kind of separate his lips a little bit, and he also needs a neck. Here's another one. This guy has been cured. I will say that this guy and this guy, and to some extent this guy as well, here's the other one that's been cured. These guys are all on these armatures that are just like these pieces of wood screwed into a flat thing so I can work on it. I'm gonna be sitting in the shelf on the box frame, and the angle that they're gonna be looking out is important. So like with this guy in particular, this angle is the angle that I'm wanting him to be displayed from, the angle, about the angle I'm showing him at now. Which, as you can see, the armature is tilted. So I'm going to have to work out some way to get him fixed on while still using this armature. So there's going to have to be some kind of thing I'm going to have to figure out how to do there. Same thing with this guy too. I want him to be from some kind of sideways angle. Also, probably also tilted somewhat so that you can see, because this other face is like on the top of his head. So yeah, I'm gonna have to like think about like the angle I want them to be shown from. Probably all of them will be at least somewhat like tilted to one side or another. But yeah, at present, like I'm just trying to like make a bunch of these, and then after I have them all, I'll be able to kind of just like put them next to the different paintings and decide like which sculpture is going to be sitting with which 2 paintings for this first piece. Alright, I think I'm getting a little bit more comfortable with this, and with just knowing that, and with just recognizing some of the limitations that I'm working with, and how I'm gonna go about, you know what, maybe the fan is making... Today is January 25th. In an effort to finish this video, I'm kind of like noticing a couple things, because I'm like scrambling to put together just some like visual evidence of some of the things that I've been talking about, because I've been talking a lot. I have like some time lapses when I'm like trying to finish the video. I realized that I didn't ever really create a section where I'm like saying anything about the process of making the paintings, and then now the process of making the sculptures. So I'm going to do that now. I'm going to talk about the process of making the paintings and a little bit about the process of making the sculptures, so that I have a period of time where it makes sense for me to put in and show some of the time lapses of those processes that I was able to capture. This is what I'll say. These paintings are a little bit different from the sallow face paintings in that the sallow face paintings were all, the compositions were all harvested from other drawings. So they were all projected onto a picture and then traced, and then I painted from the traced drawing. These, for the vast majority of these, excluding 3 of them, the vast majority of the paintings, especially the ones that I like a lot, those were drawn onto oil paper. So, and during the process of making those paintings or making those drawings, they went through, there was a lot of erasing. So there's a lot of like history in the drawings where, you know, like I make a facial feature, changing the proportions, sometimes radically changing the drawings quite a bit. So yeah, there's a lot of erasing on those. There are a few of them, as I mentioned, that were traced, that were harvested from drawings, but the other difference there is that in that case, those drawings were harvested from
very recent drawings, as opposed to ones from 2021, like with the sallow face. These were all ones from the past few months. So yeah, the process of making those is I'm using, I'm trying to make these interesting faces. I'm drawing from my intuitive painting, drawing skill set to exaggerate features and connect different areas of the face in ways that are interesting or unusual. And then, yeah, but when I'm going in and applying the paint to the drawing on oil paper, I'm employing the same basic technique that I did with the Sallow Face series, where I'm using the same palette, the asphaltum color, and then a couple different yellow tones. I think maybe I use some white, but mainly I actually think I have the colors right here. This one is like for the lightest tones, get this color blended in. I don't even know what that's called, but it says it right there. And then, yeah, this is the darker tone, the asphaltum. I have a bigger tube of that as well. And then just some like cadmium yellow. And those colors blend well together to kind of create that almost monochromatic appearance that resembles like a drawing. So it's, just light and dark. So yeah, that's the process with the paintings. The sculptures, I'm more like basically very new to that process of using the polymer clay. As I said, I made a series of sculpted heads for that collaborative art show. I'm using a similar method for these, but the armature I'm using is a little bit different now. I'm just using like a wooden pole. Yeah, I use this tool. Less so this side, but more so this side. Yeah, just make a tinfoil ball, wrap it around the wood on the armature. I want to say, sort of as a conclusion to this video, that yeah, I'm planning to make a video every month, and then maybe the last thing I should say is just forecasting for the next video, which I guess since this is like at the very end of January, the next video probably I'll plan to put it out at the very end of February, as and then just keep that kind of cycle going. I would say, looking ahead, I'm going to try to be more responsible or more disciplined when it comes to running the camera when I'm doing some of this stuff. Like, for example, I have this box partially made, but I didn't record any of the process of actually cutting the wood, putting it together, measuring it, things of that nature, which those things were like, I had to do a lot of problem solving. Even though, like, in concept it seemed very simple, I had to, and I had to get help from other people to help me understand the best ways to do this and using the correct tools to do it. So I'm going to try to be more disciplined with running the camera while I'm actually doing this stuff. And I don't know, also just like refining some of the ways that my cameras are set up. I have like a GoPro right on top of my desk, which works decently well to capture some of the process of the paintings. As far as like capturing the process of making the sculptures, I'm less satisfied with how those look, but at least I captured some of that. But yeah, forecasting, I'll be finishing making the box, and I'll try to make sure to record that. I will be making two more, at least, like there's two drawings that I did on the oil paper just a couple days ago. I made them, like, I finished both of them the same day, and I'm excited about those drawings. Like, part of me is actually thinking I might, even though I have like all these other portraits already done, that these two new drawings, if I can like execute them well in painting, like I might even like use both of those for this first thing, or at least one of them. So I'll be filming those paintings, and I'm gonna make a bunch more sculptures. I'll probably show some of the painting process of painting some of these sculptures, which I haven't gotten around to doing yet. Yeah, that's basically it. I'm thinking, like, Cause yeah, part of me was like, should I just like finish this project and make a video showing the project? But ultimately, like, I think I don't know how long that's gonna go on for, and I'd rather just like maybe just have a little bit more of a casual approach to making these videos, since they are gonna be like a monthly thing. Just kind of, yeah, put out whatever I have, and then maybe more just like the cumulative videos together will say more than like I can like curate to say in one video.